Welcome to Rocket Ship, the home of epic React Native content. I'm Simon Grimm, creator of Galaxies.dev, and today we have some really big news to cover. There's so much going on in the React Native ecosystem, from new major releases of React Native and Expo and really important packages that can affect your application, to some really trending topics in the community that came up now based on AI, based on the React Universe conference that just took place. So let's get right into a lot of news today. Kicking this off with a big release 2.0 of Maestro. So if you haven't heard about Maestro before, it's end-to-end testing for mobile and web apps, and with React Native it really works great. And they just shipped version 2 of that set Maestro. It's actually, I think they opened this with, why is it called 2.0? Isn't this just another release? There's a great post detailing that they changed some underlying things in Maestro to make it even better as it is right now and more stable for the future. So if you've been looking for something and haven't checked this out, definitely give Maestro a try in the near future. It also works pretty great with EAS and the whole build flow up there. Then we got a new version of a library called React Native Audio API from Software Mention. Now, I think this is kind of a niche thing because, I don't think I ever had an application that required a specific audio package, but I know that those applications that need this can really benefit from some great libraries, and this seems to be a really great approach. So if your application is using anything related to audio, go check it out, React Native Audio, now in 0.8. Then let's talk about our favorite topic, lists and list performance. So right now, during the conference, Maestro announced version 2.0 of LegendList. So LegendList, after FlashList was kind of stale for a while, LegendList was the fresh wind in the community, and it looked like LegendList has the best performance. It's the fastest React Native library, 100% JavaScript, and the examples always look great. However, recently, FlashList version 2 also came out. And of course, it was a complete rewrite. We talked about this in previous episodes. And FlashList is also great and has been used in so many applications. And of course, there will be benchmarks between LegendList and FlashList. My assumption is that both might shine in different scenarios. So Vadim also recently had a post where actually FlatList worked the best for him. I think it really depends on the needs of your application. You have big items. Are the items the same? Do they have a lot of content, a lot of images, subcomponents, child things? I don't know. So Tala made a little stress test where LegendList actually didn't look that good. Then Jay replied with, okay, fixed in 2.0.1. I had taken out some code. Now it's back in. So I don't know which is the fastest library, just like I don't know which is the best framework in the world. So just give it a try. I think LegendList is a super solid choice at this point for a list, but so is FlashList version 2 probably as well. Talking about another super important package that's probably installed with all of your applications, that's Reanimated. So your favorite library for animations in your application recently got a bump to version 4. Actually, that was already at the end of July, and now it's September. Haven't we talked about this before? I feel like maybe we've talked about this before. I don't know. It was on my list. I also shared a video about this last week on my main channel, so go check it out. I gave some examples of Reanimated 4, how it differs, how you can now use CSS animations and transitions, so you can pretty much write web-style transitions and animations in your React Native app, and they will still use the underlying mechanics of Reanimated with things like use shared value, which you usually use to do the animations on the UI thread. You can now do through CSS syntax in your application, which opens up a lot of possibilities, especially for web developers coming to React Native, but overall also makes writing little transitions and animations a lot easier. But rest assured, the old API of shared values is, of course, still there and still recommended for more complex use cases in your application. Next off, we got, by the way, because we haven't talked about this for quite some time, and we had the podcast with Jamin in between, by the way. If you haven't looked at that episode, go listen to it or watch the previous one with Jamin from Infinite Red. It's always incredible to talk to such a great person. Now, After Reanimated version 4, there's already Reanimated version 4.1 with improved types for FlashList version 2, working with the latest React Native and Expo versions, and also an update to the new separate React Native worklets package. So I'd have more into that topic in the video. Pretty much they removed React Native worklets, or the whole worklets topic, from Reanimated. So there's now a separate package that you have to install, and you can also use that in the future for other things. And we're going to probably talk about this more over the next time. Okay, more new things related to Reanimated. So many people have asked about shared element transitions. They kind of worked, and then they stopped working, and then they said we have problems with the new architecture and versions, but it looks like shared element transitions are finally coming back, working with a new architecture and working in Reanimated 4.2. And since we have Reanimated 4.1 already released, I guess it won't be too far in the future. So I'm really looking forward to this. Shared element transitions look really, really amazing. But I also hope at the same time we're going to just have like the UI kit transitions on iOS in the near future, but Evan Bacon is, I guess, or I think, already working on that. More new libraries and news. Shimon I think he's working from Magello, right? Shimon, working CTO at Magello. He's working on a new library called React Native Nitro Fetch. So you can probably already gather from that name, that library is using Nitro, so Nitro modules from MacroSavy that is like a faster version of Turbo modules and stuff for making fetch requests. So I wasn't aware that I need a better library for fetch requests, but I'm always open to improvements, of course. Drop-in fetch replacement, prefetch and prefetch on AppStart, built with Nitro, worked with worklets, fetch on worklet. That sounds really interesting. Again, a little pointer to, we should probably talk more about worklets in the near future. So keep an eye on React Native Nitro Fetch library, maybe an improved version coming soon. Then good old Shopify made some more news. After FlashList, they now have an epic article on their blog talking about migrating to React Native's new architecture and how they successfully migrated 2 of their largest applications. This one is really an epic post for everyone or every company that thinks about migrating as well. If you have put this off at your company, here will be reasons why you should do this. So their Android stuff got a lot faster, some screens got a lot better, but at the same time also they share the approach they took in upgrading the application and the issues they faced during the migration and how you can go about them. Really, it's a great post, and everyone who is still thinking about migrating or is pressured to do the migration soon, read this article on the Shopify blog. Really, it's an amazing piece. Basically, at least one thing I can tell you is upgrade to the latest React Native version, because there are a lot of changes in the latest React Native version. When I tried moving to the new architecture, one of my apps, a couple of months ago, we were probably at React Native, I don't know, 0.78 or something like that, or even earlier. And there were still some flaws with like drop frames and things really not working. But now, in the latest version, they have already fixed a lot of that. So do yourself a favor of upgrading your React Native versions first, and then looking at the rest of the migration. Okay, more cool things. We could also put this into trending, but well, let's do this as a little news. So there is something called Re.Pack. I think ColdStack has developed that library that allows you to use module federation in your app. Okay, if you haven't heard about module federation, right now is probably not the best time to explain this in the podcast, but let's make an easy example. You can have an application and you can essentially load 2 different front ends or multiple front ends, multiple projects that you start with npm start or npx expo in that application. So you have like your many big application, and then you have like a little card or multiple cards or screens that are essentially their own applications. This architecture is also referred to as a super app. I've heard about this a couple of years ago. I wasn't sure that it's still a thing, but maybe this is coming more and more now. I think Jack Harrington also had a video a couple of weeks ago about module federation. And now Jakub, I guess working at ColdStack, yes, brought up, or it's working on a Maestro plugin that actually works in Expo Go as well, and soon also in Expo development builds. So previously you had to use the, as far as I know, community CLI to use Re.Pack and get module federation to work correctly. If this now also works in the Expo ecosystem, that is pretty cool. I really like they're working on this and not making it exclusive to like the React Native community CLI. So I'm really looking forward to trying out module federation with Expo very, very soon. Coming finally to Expo and React Native news. Things from Expo that are new. They recently announced a new tool called Expo Launch, a new way to get to the App Store. It's essentially a website where you can put in your GitHub project, and then it will take you through all the steps to build and publish your application on iOS, soon also Android. I don't know if it's going to be helpful for many like regular developers, because you already have your flow. You may be using EAS, maybe you do it just through Xcode or whatever. You have your own script set up. But of course, this could be targeted a lot at the vibe coders. They're just using tools like Bold, Lovable, and all these things to generate an app, and then they have no clue how they can submit this and get this to the App Store. But if they just put in the URL, Expo will take them by the hand and through that process. But it's also going to be maybe good for newcomers that have never done that process. So cool initiative, check it out. I think the URL is launch.expo. Let's see, launch.expo.dev. Yeah, looks cool as always. So maybe just give it a try for your next pet project. They also released a new Expo GlassEffect component. I saw an example of this in Beto's tweet. So this is using the GlassEffect view on iOS 26, which means you need to have either the beta on your device or the Xcode beta, which I'm afraid, but I have it and try not to use it because I'm really like Apple and beta stuff. It's not a good story. But anyway, really looking forward to this. A lot has already come out related to GlassEffect and Glass UI. It's not even here. I think it's coming in spring next year or something. It's also funny that they call this iOS 26. Have you ever stumbled upon that? Because right now we're at iOS 18 as far as I know. But apparently they changed release cycles to the year numbers. So next year we're going to have iOS 26. Actually kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's an interesting change. Okay. React Native also got a new update with version 0.81, which brings Android 16 support. We got faster iOS builds. The inbuilt SafeAreaView component is deprecated now, but I think we've all been using this from the React Native SafeArea context package. I think that's what it's called. But of course, Android 16 support is pretty cool, and we also have now pre-compiled iOS builds. This is still experimental, but this can dramatically speed up the build of your iOS application. And this is also making its way, of course, into Expo SDK 54. We haven't talked about that one because this just came out, I think, 2 weeks ago. And by now, when you watch this episode, listen to it, most likely SDK 54 stable will be released because the beta should just be 2 weeks and it's now already almost 3 weeks. So it should be out of beta. I'll make a separate video on all things SDK 54 because I assume that would be a bit too long for today's episode. Maybe we can also bring someone from the Expo team back to talk about this. But essentially, let me just give you a quick overview. SDK 54 includes React Native 81, so 0.81, and React 19.1. That's pretty cool because then you also get the benefit of these pre-compiled React Native iOS builds, which speed up things. You got support for a lot of iOS 26 stuff. You have Expo Router version 6 beta, which comes with a pretty nice view component to have like a preview of there's a lot going on here in there, like a preview of links, but beyond that there's nothing crazy. There's beta support for some native tabs, which I think is pretty cool. So if you didn't know, in Expo Router previously, you actually had a JavaScript implementation of the tabs, and now we can have a native tabs implementation really easy that gives this smooth effect of changing tabs, but will also give you instant access to the Glass UI effect with iOS 26. So really, absolutely a big fan of using the native tabs. Beyond that, well, there are a couple of small breaking changes and little new packages. Of course, using React 19.1 enables everyone to use owner stacks and have a lot better error reporting. So I tried it in my applications, and the errors are so much better. The errors just go exactly to the file of the package where it occurred, and you instantly know, okay, it's about this one and something I have to fix about this. And where otherwise it was like going to a random node modules file and you're like, yeah, maybe that's the problem, but maybe it's also not the problem at all. So this is absolutely, probably, I think this is one of the biggest things for me. I mean, it wasn't related to Expo. You could get this with React Native 0.80 before, I think. But anyway, it's cool that it now works with the latest Expo version. Also, some changes behind the scenes to auto-linking in React Native. So if you ever experience problems with auto-linking, it should be now more aligned between Expo and how React Native does it in general, as far as I understood. I read a long article, I understood about 10% about auto-linking, but it looked very legit, like it got a lot better. Okay, that's, I guess, everything about React Native. This is, by the way, there's a quick note here at the end that this Expo version, the Expo SDK 54, is going to be the last version supporting the old architecture. I can't find the line exactly anymore. That's a pity. I'm an idiot. But there was some line about this. And at the same time, I also saw an RFC on the React Native community GitHub repository to remove the legacy architecture of React Native. So this gives really strong indication once again to everyone, if you're not on the new architecture, it is more than time to do it now. And if you want to do it, I highly recommend you check out the Shopify migration post. It will show you what to watch out for. You can also lay out a plan if you have a big application and follow Shopify's approach, and then you will hopefully be on the new architecture soon and benefit from all the latest packages. By the way, Reanimated 4 is also only for the new architecture. So many reasons to go for the new architecture, and if you got any problems, let me know on X, on GitHub, somewhere, and we will definitely find a solution. Like always, I'm not only updating you about the React Native packages and the essential things going on, but giving you a bit of subcontext and what's trending currently in the community. And I actually spotted quite a few things that I want to talk with you about. So the first one is actually pretty fast. Warp. What is Warp? So I've been using a lot of AI tools. You know, I always used Cursor the last time. I tried to follow up with everything that was cool and hot. Then recently I noticed that everyone's saying, oh, Cloud Code is so much better. Then I went to Cloud Code and it actually works pretty well for me as well. And now last week, I think Warp came out with a new version and everyone posted about Warp and made videos about Warp. It's like maybe they orchestrated maybe that content storm, but anyway, I also see a lot of people really raving about this. Warp seems to be sort of its own editor. Beto also made a cool video about this, so you can check it out on Beto's YouTube channel. It's a bit different than Cursor and Claude. It's AI agents and a lot of prompting, and might be targeted more at like a really good workflow in your editor. But honestly, I'm a bit scared to go to another new editor. I feel really good with Cursor right now because I mean it's mainly Visual Studio Code. It's just a fork with some different capabilities at this point. But now going for Warp and a completely new thing, I don't know. But let me know what you think about Warp. Have you used it? Can you recommend it? Any experience? I would love to hear this. So if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment below. If you're listening to this on podcast or anywhere else, Spotify, just hit me up on X. I would love to know if you have any experience with Warp and how you found it. Then, reading Mark Rosavi's profile, he's becoming the new Evan Bacon, right? We've talked more about Mark in the last time than we talked about Evan. Anyway, he recently shared a really cool video that they had I think they had a retreat at Magello, and they rebuilt Doodle Jump with React Native. And it's just like, it's the game. There's no problem. I always wanted to build this myself, but I guess if they had took a week to build this, I guess I can't do it just on the side. But anyway, the point that I want to show is that performance here is absolutely fantastic, and there are more great apps recently. The new Tesla Robotaxi app is of course made with Expo, and this just shows that I think also there's an app for the Replit application is of course also built with Expo. So all these big companies are still betting on Expo. They're using the latest stuff, and the Expo Apple targets in the Replit app. Doodle Jump uses Reanimated and the new stuff with the new architecture. Robotaxi, I haven't used the app personally because it's only in, I think, Austin or something. But this just shows very clearly that the industry and the major players are betting on Expo and using it in their application, and the performance is great. So, coming now to one last thing, which is the React Universe conference that just took place. We'll probably talk more about this in the next episode. I still have to watch a couple of talks and get a full picture, but there were a handful of interesting things that I already want to hint at. The first one came from Jacek. So Jacek just recently released version 3 of Unistyles, a great package for styling your React Native application. And the conference, he now announced UniWind or UniWind. I don't know how he called it. This is pretty much support for Tailwind in your React Native application. And yes, we had this with Native Wind before, but apparently this is now Tailwind in React Native with zero runtime overhead, powered by Nitro modules. Coming back to Mark Rosavi, we should probably call this the Mark episode, and the Nitro modules. So Jacek has used this with Unistyles. He learned a lot about building the best performance into Unistyles, and he's now building this into UniWind. You can join the waitlist at uniwind.dev. I haven't personally tried it yet. There's also a pricing or a potential plan, but for the free version, you should be able, hopefully, to get the most out of it already. But we will see. But if this is as good as it claims, it might be worth the $99 per year or whatever the price changes until the release. It is also pretty much here as far as Jacek explained. So this is not a distant future in 26. This should be right around the corner. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on the release of this because I do use Tailwind, and I know that some people had problems with using Tailwind in React Native. So this might be a solution to get even better performance. Then there was another big announcement from CallStack, from Mike. They announced Rock, a new enterprise suite for React Native. And at the first time hearing this, you could think that this is a potential competitor to Expo. More on that in a second. It is made for legacy React Native applications that want to integrate micro front ends, and it includes a bunch of the things that CallStack released over the last time. For example, Rosenite, which we talked about with Jamin before, which could become the default registry for DevTools for React Native. It includes Re.Pack and React Native Sandbox to build secure micro frontends. Again, Re.Pack also coming to Expo, so we see some overlap. And it includes some other tools that they have built. Now, of course, any announcement like this stirs up the community, and everyone's like, oh, but Expo is the best. Oh, we suddenly have a competitor to Expo. And in the past, when we talked about, for example, Lynx, by the way, Lynx was also at the React Universe, but that's a different story. Is Lynx a competitor to Expo? We had the One framework announced by... I forgot the name. I'm so sorry. But yeah, multiple frameworks were announced in the past as potential competitors to Expo. And so is Rock, also initially seen as a potential competitor. But Mike followed up a couple of days later because he wanted to share some context about the philosophy. And he said clearly, we are huge fans and heavy users of Expo. Rock is different from Expo. It brings some tools to the table that Expo might be missing. But they are still huge fans of Expo. So this is not meant as a real Expo competition. It's cool, and we see this already now with the Module Federation that they try to bring this package to Expo as well. I think it's great. It's just like with the lists. If we have competition between the lists, you as a developer, as a company, will in the end get the best performant list because everyone learns from each other. And so it might be the same for Expo, for Lynx, for Rock, or for One, that we finally just benefit from these initiatives. Now, one last thing, and this might actually be the biggest takeaway from the conference, is that React Native 1.0 is on the horizon. There was a talk about how the team behind React Native and the releases has improved their stability, their release process. They automated a lot of things. They just made it a lot easier. So instead of like taking 2 days for a release, it now takes them like 2 hours. So they can consistently ship releases every other month. You've seen this in the past. The speed of new React Native releases really picked up. And in that talk, they had a little slide. He had a little slide where the 1.0 was coming up on the horizon of the earth. So I think this is great news for the whole React Native community. This is not super critical. It is not super important. It will not make your application suddenly faster because it will just be a version change at some point. But now that we've come to the new architecture, to better performance, to more stable releases, this would be a great signal to the industry that React Native has finally, after like 10 years probably, come to a point where we call it a stable 1.0 version. And that will probably open up the gates to a whole lot, like a new level of popularity. Because every React developer will then say in the company, hey, this is the tool we should use to build a mobile app. It is at version 1. We can finally use it. It's not like any kind of strange 0 point something version. And every kind of management will feel good about this. Oh yeah, like 1.0, that sounds good. Let's use this. So I'm really looking forward to this. I don't know when it will happen. Not this year, I guess. But I think for 2026, this is really probably becoming the reality. So again, I haven't watched everything from the conference. Mark was there. He summed up some of the things. Awesome to see the Lynx team. Not too much AI talks. A lot of native stuff related to Nitro. Maybe a trend. I think we should talk about this in the future as well. Styling just got much better, and worklets multi-threading is going to be a big thing. And finally, also React Native feels more stable than ever before. So a lot of really great signals. If you haven't been part of the conference, you can watch both days for free on YouTube, the whole live stream. You can also skip through it. I guess there are some chapters by now, but if not, most of the talks are good. Some are really technical, so really a lot of interesting things in there. I will take it as my job to distill the most important pieces from the conference for one of our upcoming videos or podcast episodes. And until then, I hope you rest assured that React Native is on a great trajectory. We're hitting for version 1. Expo has a new SDK coming out probably today, tomorrow, and everything's pretty much great in the community. So I hope with this spirit, you're going to have an amazing week. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a like, or if you listen to this as a podcast, it would be amazing if you could leave a little comment just saying this was cool. Rocket Ship is a great podcast to stay up to date with React Native, or just ask your AI to write a comment for you. Really, it's not easy at this point, and it would really help me a lot if you enjoyed the episode. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for joining today's episode. My goal is to share interesting stories and insights into the world of React Native development. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. And on Spotify and Apple, you can leave up to a 5-star review. Because podcasts, and especially niche podcasts like this, are hard to find, subscribing and leaving a review does help me a lot. On top of that, check out my React Native courses on galaxies.dev that cover a variety of topics from getting started to building and publishing your mobile app. Finally, you can share today's episode with a friend or colleague who would enjoy the topic of the show. If you have any questions or ideas for future episodes, find me on X or leave a comment on YouTube. And last but not least, thank you for listening and happy coding. Simon.